Success in Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. It's Kerry, Lutz, and you've been watching TV at all, paying any attention to the media. How much you should pay is an open question. You've seen the riots taking place in Baltimore and pretty heavy stuff. Where's the government when you need it? That's always the question. Can't find a cop when you need it. Can't find National Guard. Finally, they get called out. What's going on here? Wayne Root with us. You know him well, former Libertarian vice presidential nominee and author of bestseller, The Murder of the Middle Class. And Wayne, welcome. Now they're murdering the lower middle class, right?
Yeah, and isn't it interesting at the moment that we actually have this interview and record this interview, because I'm sure your interviews get played for many months, if not years to come. I want people to understand on this very day that we recorded what just came out moments ago. Let's separate for just 1 second from the Baltimore riots. We'll get back to that in 1 second. It just came out that officially the GDP is 0.02%, meaning it's zero. Zero economic growth. Guys like you and me have been screaming from the highest rooftops and the highest mountaintops for 6 years now that Obama has wrecked the economy, destroyed the economy, created a dysfunctional economy, and that it is not going to recover. And there's been little fits and starts and little green shoots, as they say, but I've always argued that we are in the middle of an Obama Great Depression. And sure enough, here you see 6 years into his presidency, we're at zero GDP, and there was no harsh winter to blame. There was nothing to blame except taxes and regulations, and Obamacare are destroying the United States economy and capitalism, and that's exactly what the man wanted.
Yeah, amazing. He got it, and now he's complaining about it. It's everybody's fault but his, right?
Well, that's kind of what you hear in Baltimore, too, isn't it? It's everybody's fault except the rioters in Baltimore, and that's why I wrote my latest commentary that Black America should start blaming Black America.
Well, they were pushed to it, right? It's society's fault, not theirs, because of racism and everything else, all the other...
Well, I thought the most interesting thing about the entire situation is found in that woman. You saw that black mother who was grabbing her son, hitting her son,
beating the crap out of him.
Screaming at her son and clawing at her son. She was doing everything she could to try and save his life. And I give her great kudos, because guess what? That's what all mothers should do to save their sons' lives. And so the end result was that everyone in the media lauded her. The New York Post called her Mom of the Year, and I agree, except nobody bothered to ask the question, where's the father? And I think that's a huge question. You know, they have those signs, Black Lives Matter. I think someone ought to ask, fathers matter in the black community. And someone ought to ask, does violence matter in the black community? Does black violence on other black people matter? Does black looting and burning of black businesses matter? Does black destruction of black neighborhoods matter? Someone should be asking these questions. I know that black violence does matter, and they ought to be blaming themselves and looking inward and trying to solve this problem and stop blaming others. And I know that black fathers matter, and they better figure out a way to get fathers back in their lives, or another generation of black youth will be lost. And someone's got to say this. Someone's got to have the balls and the chutzpah to say it, and take the spears of all the liberals who are now going to call me a racist for daring to tell the raw truth.
Wayne, before the Great Society started, the number of out-of-wedlock births in the black community was 15%. Now, I don't remember if it was 75 or 85%. I don't know if there's a direct one-to-one correlation, but certainly there needs to be an inquiry made of, if we're fighting poverty, and one of the main causes of poverty is single-parent families, primarily female parent, is there a correlation here?
Yeah, well, it's two things. It's single-family families or single-parent families. It's no father in the home specifically. And third of all, it's the war on poverty. It's the welfare state itself. My article indicts the welfare state, and my article also indicts the amount of money spent in the war on poverty. Do you realize in the history of America, we've spent about $7 trillion on war? In the history of America, that includes World War II. $7 trillion total, but we've spent $22 trillion and counting on the war on poverty. And that's not in the history of America since day one. That's just since it started in 66, after LBJ was elected. The war on poverty, I believe, started at 66. LBJ was 64, was his election. I believe he passed it in 66. So to 76, 86, 96, 2006, we're almost at 2016. So it's 49 years it's been in place, and we've wasted $22 trillion and counting. And things don't look any better in the Baltimore ghettos than they looked the last time they had riots in Baltimore in 1969. They look exactly the same, but we've wasted $22 trillion on nothing.
On nothing. And imagine if we'd had tax cuts and you got to keep that 22 trillion and it got reinvested into the economy. Imagine how much larger the economy would be now if that money had been invested, Wayne.
Well, that's the argument I make why the GDP is at zero, because Barack Obama invested his money in a stimulus that only helps people that are poor. Poor people don't create jobs and don't start businesses. Welfare is a complete waste of money. But, of course, that's the opposite argument that Democrats will give you. Ask Nancy Pelosi, who said that unemployment benefits are stimulus and welfare is stimulus and food stamps are stimulus. These people don't know what they're doing or what they're saying. They're just trying to rationalize redistributing my income and your income and the income of every person listening to a bunch of people that will vote Democrat because you're buying them off. You're bribing them with a welfare check each month. That's all that's going on here, is a rationalization for buying off voters who vote Democrat. But the reality is those voters will never help the American economy. Vast swaths of them have never worked. Most of them have families where there isn't one person working in their entire household. How are they going to help the economy? So can you imagine if you took the same money for food stamps, welfare, and stimulus, that $1 trillion stimulus waste, and you just handed it back in the form of tax cuts to every small business man or woman in America? What a difference it would be in the American economy. How about if instead of giving $3,000, $4,000, $10,000 income tax credits to illegal aliens who just got to our country, maybe you could give that in a tax refund to guys like you and me that create jobs and build businesses. Wouldn't that turn the economy around? And wouldn't that inspire guys like you and me, instead of turning us off and making us sick to our stomachs so we don't want to work anymore for this country?
Yeah, and instead of making so many potential wealth creators, job creators go galt and say, why am I bothering? Because they're just going to steal my money from me anyway.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what's happening, is we are going galt. There's no question. I mean, I see it every day. All my friends are successful small businessmen. I don't have $100 million friends or billionaire friends for the most part. I have small business owners, and they're all moving underground, or they're leaving the country, or they're making plans to leave the country. I would say, 90% of my friends haven't left America, but they're exploring, where do I get a second passport? Where can I buy a second home outside the United States to run to if things get even worse under Barack Obama, or God forbid, someone even worse than him, Hillary Clinton or Elizabeth Warren? Who knows who's coming next? Maybe Bernie Sanders, the socialist, will be the next president of the United States. Who knows? It's so funny, Kerry.
I'm just glad I haven't eaten lunch yet when you're speaking
Bernie
here.
calls himself a socialist. At least he's honest. Barack Obama has the exact same policies. He just doesn't use the word socialist. Here's an argument that people ought to understand. Go look at the policies in place in all the bankrupt pigs of Europe. Portugal, Italy, Greece, France should be in that list. They didn't list them originally. There's no F in pigs, although there should be. But go look at all those countries, Spain, and see what their policies are and see who runs the country. Their policies sound exactly like Obama and Obamacare, and taxes and regulations and unions, all the same as Obama. And the leaders of every one of those countries are called socialists. Yeah. Isn't that funny? In America, we just call it Democrat, and we argue, we're not socialist. That's ridiculous, because they're afraid of the word communist, Marxist, and socialist. But they're the exact same people, and their policies have ruined every single one of those countries.
Yeah, it's the reverse Midas effect. Everything they touch turns to excrement, pretty much.
Exactly.
And I brought up Hillary Clinton. It's remarkable to me, Wayne, what she's been going through lately, all of these scandals that are actually being discussed in the hallowed halls of liberal journalism, makes you think that there's a concerted effort between the White House and the powers that be in the liberal progressive establishment to take her out.
Yeah, Obama hates Hillary. I've read quite a few articles, Kerry, saying that I believe Obama hates Hillary. And, of course, I have 2 national best-selling books, both published by Regnery Publishing, and the most recent one, The Murder of the Middle Class. And Regnery has other conservative authors who have written books, some of them about Hillary Clinton, and one of them is Ed Klein. And he wrote Blood Feud. It was the #1 book in the country at the New York Times.
Oh, yeah.
And Blood Feud said the Clintons hate the Obamas hate the Clintons. So I'm very familiar with their hatred for each other. I don't believe Hillary will ever get the nomination. I've said this before. I'm sure I've said it on your show. I'll say it again. I don't think Hillary's going to get the nomination. I think she has to worry about jail time right now. I think she could get indicted. You might see Hillary at a women's prison. I'm telling you, what she's done is pure bribery while Secretary of State. See, it would be bad enough if her Clinton Foundation took all kinds of bribes, and in return, you could argue she's too conflicted of interest to be president of the United States. My God, she's taking money from all these foreign governments. But wait a minute. She didn't just take it in advance of running for president. She took it while serving as Secretary of State. Mm-hmm. That's another level of criminality that's far worse than taking something in advance of being president. Let's say Newt Gingrich collects all kinds of money from foreign governments that he runs for president. I'd be just as strongly against Newt Gingrich at that point. I'm not saying that Newt ever did anything wrong. That name just came to my mind as an example.
It doesn't matter who.
But what if, Kerry, what if Newt took the money while he was Secretary of State in a Republican administration? He had a foundation, accepted money from foreign governments, and then you passed whatever the foreign governments wanted within weeks of collecting the check. Oh, my gosh. This is pure criminal. There's no other way to put it.
I got to tell you that back after Clinton left the presidency, left the White House, he hooked up with this guy, Frank Giustra, and nobody had ever heard of him in the world. Nobody. And he had 0 hits in Google when he flew off to Kazakhstan with this guy in his MD-87. It's not the most elaborate private jet. It's not like a Boeing business jet, which is a souped-up 737. But hey, it's not a schleppy little Cessna, okay? And I'm saying, who is this guy? I can't find anything on Google about him. He just came out of nowhere. They get the uranium mining concession in Kazakhstan, and then he kind of comes out of the shadows, and then he's a trustee of the Clinton Foundation, and all these things happen. And then Uranium One, all these things happen, and now the pieces of the puzzle get connected, all the payoffs, everything else, and directly against the national interest of the country. Uranium mines, uranium's important for the future of nuclear power in the United States. There's just so many things that it's connected to. You can't just be giving away that resource to a sworn enemy, to Vladimir Putin, and yet this is what they did. And obviously Obama knew all about it and just sat back and watched. He couldn't have cared less. So he's not blameless for this, and yet he gets to sit back, and obviously these disclosures are coming from someplace very high up. We can speculate as to where, but this is huge. I mean, so many people think she's just going to slide by and it's not going to matter. I'm not one of those here.
Our whole government, Kerry, is just so corrupt, and as I'm speaking to you, as we do this interview, I've got Drudge Report up on the screen. And what's the latest news that just came in this second? That a new report is out that literally proves the mayor of Baltimore told the police to stand down and let them burn the town.
Oh,
she didn't want them to. Of course, I knew that was happening. I mean, first of all, it was so clear. It was clear they weren't doing anything. They had to be ordered to do nothing. But number two is it was clear to me why. Because a black mayor did not want the whole country to watch with TV news crews, cameras pointing at them, policemen hitting black people and arresting black people and dragging black people away and clubbing black people. But guess what, folks? That wasn't racism. That would have been because the only people in the street causing the violence happen to be black. You have to arrest black people when the only people in the street happen to be black. That's not racism. That's doing your job as a police officer. But she couldn't allow that, A, because she's bleeding heart and she's black and doesn't want to see, obviously, her town on the national news involving black violence, and B, she didn't want to be the one accused that she put the order out and black people got beaten and dragged away. So instead, she allowed taxpayers who have been in business for 20 and 30 and 40 years in that neighborhood to see their stores, their livelihoods burned to the ground, even though you paid property taxes for 30 years in a row, with one thing in mind. All government could do with your money is protect you, right? That's their only job.
You hope.
And they didn't do it.
You pray that they protect you, but
it's one thing to not protect you. It's another to order the police to let your business burn. See, that's every one of these people should sue for hundreds of millions of dollars now. This government should go down because I pay taxes in, and you're not protecting me when it's implicit. The only reason I'm paying the taxes is that you're supposed to protect me.
Yeah, the place is burning, you send the fire department. If you're getting robbed, you send the cops. And the streets need to be cleaned, you send the sanitation department. Very basic, fundamental services that we all, as bad as they might be delivered, you expect some minimum, and yet complete failure to lead. She should be led away in cuffs herself. I mean, this is just criminality.
Look, the country is on the verge of a total collapse. Economically, it's on the verge of a collapse. Metaphorically, it's on the verge of a collapse. Morally, I see a Drudge Report, a big headline here that New Yorkers with Baltimore ties warn riots are coming to New York City. I'm telling you, Kerry, this country is on the edge of unrest and major cities, inner cities being burned to the ground all over this country. Baltimore is just a canary in the coal mine. It's a sign of what's coming.
I've read reports that the riots there out in Ferguson pre-planned. Do you think these riots were pre-planned? Wayne?
Well, I don't know about the word pre-planned. I think the right word may be pre-planned, but I'm saying the correct word, no matter what, is that there are agitators who are planning them. I don't know about the word pre-planned. I think that as soon as something bad happens, a cop shoots a kid, or a kid dies somehow in police custody, then all the rabble-rousers and agitators and communists, most of them are tied into the Communist Party, or the Black Panthers who are tied into the Communist Party, and they all wind up stirring up anger and using social media to get a mob to form, and they agitate them to the point where someone's going to die and businesses are going to get burned to the ground. But you know what's funny is that actually none of this is funny. Let me change that wording so I don't get in trouble. None of it's funny. But what's strange is that in both Ferguson and Baltimore, if you weren't a complete moron and if you're not blind, deaf, and dumb, you knew this was coming, and all you had to do was plan yourself, meaning government and the police should have been planning to prevent it or to protect against it with National Guard and with canceling all police vacations and having policemen pre-staged in the right places, Yeah,
this is the type of thing that they used to do in New York before Comrade de Blasio took over. And they're still doing, because Bratton will not allow it, regardless what de Blasio says. He's not going to allow a riot to take place on his watch. All those
but you can't win. Don't you see that? You can't win because in Ferguson you had all white leaders and white policemen for the most part. And so the argument was, this is why it's a powder keg, and this is why blacks are angry and hostile and causing major violence, because they're sick of a black town being ruled by white politicians and white policemen. Now you switch to Baltimore, it's 100% black rule, black police chief, black policemen. It's a majority-minority police force, black city council, black mayor, and they're not happy. The same black residents are still rioting and burning and looting. So therefore, you can't win no matter what you do. White leadership, black leadership, Republican leadership, Democratic leadership. It doesn't matter. If your argument is blacks are powerless, really? With a black president and a black attorney general and a new black attorney general?
Yeah, so where's the solution here?
The solution is personal responsibility. That's the only solution. Father in the house, personal responsibility, end the war on poverty. It hasn't helped anyone. It's destroyed them, and it's destroyed the fabric of the family.
Oh, it's so true. And the welfare state, responsible for the escalating fatherless family, both in the black community and outside of it. Because I remember a family owned apartments in a not so great part of New Jersey, and welfare would come around and check to see that the husband wasn't living in the house And if he was, they'd cut off the welfare benefits. Talk about negative incentives, Wayne. That's the biggest one. Horrible.
Yeah, and as we're speaking, it's so funny because as we're speaking, I keep looking at all the news stories coming by the moment. And here's Rand Paul in the Washington Post citing a lack of fathers in Baltimore households, and that's why the rioting happened. So it's just funny. I mean, the things I say seem to resonate and seem to get out there into the mouths of some political leaders who have a little bit of bravery.
They're true because nobody's willing to speak it. And this is the biggest look. What about the studies, Wayne, that say kids that grow up in a household without fathers are like 4 times more likely to wind up in the criminal justice system, to drop out from high school, to all of these negative consequences. Whereas with a father, accountability, discipline. Look, I don't want to put down single mothers because, look, you do the best you can, whatever hand you're dealt with. But when it comes to discipline, a teenage boy with his mother threatening to hit him with a shoe as opposed to a father, he's going to have more respect generally for the father than for the mother. Let's face it. It's just the way it is.
Right. Well, of course. And that's what I said. I had an interview on national radio yesterday, and I mentioned the fact that, that woman had to slap her son, a woman had to claw her son, that woman had to tackle her son. And I said, what's interesting is that I have 4 kids, and I'm a great father, and I'm a disciplined father, and my kids never have to be slapped by me. And my kid, and they're lauding her as the mother of the year. And I do think she had to do whatever she had to do to stop her son from ruining his life. So I do applaud her. But on the other hand, a parent should not have to slap your kid and tackle your kid and beat your kid in order to keep. I said, I just have to look at my kids. My kids know that look from Daddy Wayne Root. That's all you need to see. And you back down or you hide under the bed.
Yeah.
That's all you need is the look from a good father. But from a mother without a father in the home and children running wild in the streets among other kids at school each day who don't have fathers, then I guess you need to slap and punch and curse at your kids to get them to follow what you have to say.
That's a sad commentary, but yeah, because otherwise you're not getting respected. And what can happen then? Nothing good. Hey, Wayne, your website, your book, where do we find them?
The website's rootforamerica.com. All my commentaries are there. You'll find my latest one, Black America Needs to Start Blaming Black America. And you'll also, if you stay tuned, if you go there, rootforamerica.com, and you're a little bit patient, next week you're going to see the biggest commentary of my entire career that could take down the entire Obama administration, direct from my IRS files obtained under the Freedom of Information Act by Judicial Watch.
Judicial Watch got the file? Get out.
They got the file, and when you hear what's in it, explosive revelations involving a Democratic United States senator who I believe was ordered by the Obama administration to try and destroy my life. And when you see what the IRS employees wrote in the margins of my IRS file, you will go, oh, my God, it's a widespread conspiracy by the Democratic Party to destroy conservatives. They all need to go to jail, and this president needs to be impeached or removed from office like Richard Nixon. I'm going to prove it next week. So go to rootforamerica.com. You'll see me all over Fox News next week. And also make sure you grab a copy of my book, The Murder of the Middle Class, because that's what's happening in Baltimore, and that could be why my book's been out a year, and it went to the top of bestseller lists again in the last 48 hours, because I think people are starting to understand this is all the murder of the middle class.
I just can't believe that you got the file, and it's not redacted. Those things aren't cut out.
Well, you know what's scary? Listen, they stalled for 14 months. By law, they had 30 days to hand over my file. It took them 14 months, and finally, because Judicial Watch is relentless, they finally gave in and sent us the files, and it was like 1,000 pages. And I'm sure they took things out. I'll bet you they took the most incriminating stuff out, but maybe they didn't have time and they were running the clock with tickets.
Certain things they can't take out.
So they left a few little things in, including a United States senator involved in a personal taxpayer's case. Can you imagine? So anyway, all of that, I don't want to spoil the fun.
Sure.
It'll all be released next week.
We'll have you on again and talk about that.
You got it.
And,
unless Obama decides to Breitbart me between now and then. So, folks, I'll say it on Kerry's national radio show. If Wayne Root dies between making this announcement and telling the world I'm about to take the Obama administration and the IRS down, and if I die between now and then of a natural heart attack when I've never had a single heart problem in my life, you can now tie me in with Breitbart and something wrong is going on. I want everybody to know that.
Okay, Wayne. Well, thanks so much. And go to the site, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. You find the links to Wayne's site and how to get his books. And stay tuned.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Every week, the show is growing. Would you like to be a part of it? Then go to clubfsn.com and help support us with $1, $2, $5, or $10 a month and get a host of premium content with newsletters dropped into your mailbox, free books, private audio clips, webinars, and much more. Then join clubfsn.com. If you want to get ahead of the trend and ensure your family's financial security before it's too late, go to clubfsn.com and sign up.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.